All right, y'all, welcome back to the show. Today we're diving deep into the intersection of creativity, infrastructure, and capital. So many independent musicians, producers, and creative entrepreneurs try to survive on pure talent alone with prayers, but talent alone does not pay for production, marketing, or tours. Our guest today is a master architect of funding and business growth. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur, a high-level corporate strategist, and a mastermind behind I'm hoping I'm saying this correctly, but the Opia Designs Company and the Black Woman Made Corporation. She has dedicated her career to moving organizations away from survival mode and transforming them into grant-ready powerhouses. Please welcome the incredible grant writer and strategic growth facilitator, Ashleigh Steele. Ashleigh, welcome to the show.
So much. That was an amazing introduction.
Well, thank you. Been having a lot of practice lately. Did I pronounce the company name correctly?
Yeah, Opia Designs Company.
All right, so I want to get into it. One, I see that on your website that you've gotten over $150,000 in funding for companies.
Yeah, that's just in the past 6 months, though.
So in the past 6 months, which is an achievement in itself, how much would you say overall you've gotten companies, if you could give like a ballpark figure?
I've been doing this since 2017. So I would say upwards of close to 7 figures.
Okay. What made you realize there was a market for that?
I think it's so funny how I started my company. I have always been a multi-hyphenated person.
Stop building a podcast site using basic WordPress or Wix templates. You look like a hobbyist and it's killing your corporate sponsorship deals. Amateurs manually copy and paste embedded codes, fight with layout resizing and mobile feeds, and leave broken media players all over their sites. Professionals automate. The elite run on pod page architecture. Pod page connects straight from your RSS feed. The exact second you finish your audio export, it automatically generates a search engine optimization landing page, imports your show notes, and formulates a pristine mobile audio player that never freezes or lags. If you want to transition your show from an expensive hobby into a high utility media enterprise, for zero down, comment platform below. I'll slide a direct network optimization engine straight into your DMs.
And I remember it was a couple months before I graduated with my undergrad degree. And I was telling my professor what I wanted to do. And she was like, yeah, you can't do that. It was so wild. And she was like, yeah, you need to choose one thing and stick to it. And I was like, that's never going to be my ministry. I'm never just going to be a photographer or just going to be a writer. And so I literally started my company as photography, and then I just built it as time went on.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But we receive the least amount of funding across the board. And so I was like, okay. So after I graduated, a couple of weeks later, I took a grant writing class. I was like, oh, this isn't hard, but it's just really meticulous. But I have a type A personality and I have ADHD. So whenever I can actually focus on something, it's amazing. And so, yeah, that's what really got me into it. Just proving people wrong, and also knowing that I needed funding. And so I just started applying where I learned in class. And I was able to get myself funding. So I figured out people my needs.
So you were your first client?
Absolutely.
How was that process for you?
I think it's interesting because my mentor literally told me the other day that you always have to put on your own life test first. And so it was good for me. It taught me a lot. I think my very first grant that I won was a Comcast grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I won my first one, I was like, let's do it. And so I was just like, let's rent it out. And so I started applying. I started taking more classes. I started watching YouTube videos. I started following people on social media that were doing the same things that I wanted to get into. And then my friends started believing in me. Um, I think it's interesting because a lot of times people don't really want to invest in you unless they see like some kind of traction first. So after I started winning and posting about my successes, people were just like, I'm started playing.
Okay, so who was your first like client outside of your network then?
Honestly, like even like all of my clients have come from like referrals
Mm-hmm.
or like they saw my work online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like even when I speak at conferences or when I travel for like events or something, they'll be like, well, like, where can I see your work at? And I'll be like, you can just literally Google like my name or my company. And like the proof is like in the pudding. So I
Yeah.
think the first client that didn't come from a referral was maybe like a co-living company up north.
Mhm. So they
Yeah.
had like came across your work.
Yeah, on TikTok actually. Now that I think about it. They're in Colorado
Mm-hmm.
and they have like co-living houses there. So that was like the very first one that I got, and that was a couple years ago. But outside of that, all of my clients have come from like me speaking at conferences, or people from college, like my colleagues referring me to me, or they came across me when I was like in a pageant or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, she's like, okay, I wonder what she does, and then they found me that way.
And when people reach out to you, do they have the correct mindset to be able to work for you? Because I know that I've talked with other grant writers in the past, and it's people's goals sometimes are not realistic for what they want, and they don't understand the process thoroughly. What has been your experience with that?
I think that sometimes people just like don't understand how it works. So I just give them knowledge. I give them statistics. I give them facts. I tell them that 1 in 6 to 1 in 8 grants are awarded to companies, and so I tell them like it's literally like a numbers game. But you also can't just blindly like apply and be like, oh, I hope I get this one, and then just cross your fingers and just sit there. So I tell them that there's a strategy. I give them numbers about their industry, about their demographic of everything. I tell them about their geographic location. I tell them about opportunities that align with their mission. I
Mm-hmm.
also tell them that it's about finding grantors that that align with like their goals. So like let's say that I have a nonprofit that is all about like domestic violence awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't make sense to apply for a grant where like their history has been like educational institutions. So it's about research and it's about creating relationships with the grantors. And it's also about um, having a diverse funding portfolio. Like only applying for grants is never going to be the solution. And so I just make sure that I inform and I educate them as much as possible. And then they're usually more open to like what I say.
Normally, how long is that process of working with them for when, you're getting them into the right mental space, you're applying for grants, and then the probabilities of being awarded? Is that like, what I'm saying, 3 months, 6 months? Could it take up to a year?
Yes, sometimes it takes up to a year. It only really depends on like their funding amount and their funding portfolio and their business structure or their nonprofit structure. And so sometimes I could just like dive right in and start applying for funding, but sometimes they're not funding ready. They're not grant ready. Like they don't have their business registration, they don't have their EIN, They don't have a website. They're not creating traction anywhere. They haven't even started doing the work sometimes. And so it's really just like building from the ground up. But sometimes organizations come or businesses come and they have everything that I need. And even if I'm helping them with like if they're like government contracts, like they even have like their capability statement or they have their code. And so it just depends on the readiness of the organization and their capacity.
So is your work primarily based in nonprofit world, or you dabble in between profit and nonprofit world?
I dabble in between both.
And what's a misconception that you find in both of them? Like the thing that runs across your desk all the time?
Yeah, there's a couple actually. A lot of people don't know that there's funding for-profit businesses. They think it's just for nonprofit organizations, or people think that they can just apply and win the first one that they apply for, which is possible. Like nothing is impossible, but it's not likely. Another one is that they don't know the difference between restricted and unrestricted.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another one that I ran into. Yeah, those are a couple.
How is it like once they are awarded? Are you still working with them after that? Let's say if someone gets a $50,000 grant for a particular program they want to initiate in the community, does your service stop after that, or does it help them with the actual requirements of the grant? Like, they have to keep certain data so they can report it, make sure that, the funds are spent in the manner that they were proposed to be spent in.
Yeah, I do work with them after they're awarded if they would like. And so what it's called is like a principal investigator, and so they help manage the grant. And so a lot of times if someone's awarded like a $50,000 grant, I tell them that in their business account to get like a separate checking account for it. So that if the funding institution or the grantor wants to report, it's just easier to pull that report instead of like having all the funds mixed in together in like one pot. Um, I think it's just easier if they have a separate checking account that all the expenses for that particular grant.
Are they very receptive to that type of information, or?
Yeah, it depends. Everyone's different, but for the most part, as long as I have like statistics and information and like fact-based data, they tend to, listen to what I say and encourage me to do.
So for corporate scaling, how would you help accumulate, like say, $75,000 in funding, and what would a funding board look for in particular?
Okay, so what a funding board looks like would be based on that funding application. So like each entity is different, but they would generally like a couple things they would want is they would want you to have like some kind of like traction in the community to show that you are who you say you are and you're doing the community engagement that you say you are in your application. So a lot of times people don't know that they can just like have a newsletter to build their community engagement to let people know what's going on. Or they can have like a wait list for an event that's coming up. And those are really great ways to, increase your ROI. But if I were going to help an organization with 75,000, I would create a funding plan. I would find grants applicable to that organization, but I will also encourage other forms of bringing in funds. So like a sponsorship deck, a crowdfunding campaign, perhaps, depending on the goals of the organization. I would also include maybe like an online type of fundraiser. And so that way we can set the goal like extremely achievable, but also have like very specific KPIs. And so if we're looking for 75,000, we're not only going to apply for 75,000. We're probably going to apply for like 4 or 5 times that. and include different revenue streams in that plan as well.
So, like programs, like you said, like sponsorship, kids, and other types of programs, what would be the main difference in how a company would, utilize those programs as opposed to, going after the grants?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
So you mentioned the other funding sources, right? Like sponsorship type programs, and I imagine those are used differently the way that you go about and implement strategy with them.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be like some of the main differences that a business could utilize those as opposed to, just applying for, the corporate grant funding programs?
Yeah, so I think you're asking me like what other strategies and how to implement them.
Yeah, so like, the sponsorship is different than, just writing for grants, right? That already has its set parameters.
I think that it's really just the same process. You would still create a quote unquote like application for lack of better term. And so for like a sponsorship deck, I usually make like a presentation that the nonprofit or the business puts it out. And then I pair that with like a letter. And then like we also include their social media account, their website, their contact information, all of that. So it's still like a packet of sorts,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're still keeping track of it. So in my practices, I love transparency. So like I have an Excel spreadsheet with different columns, and it's like a breathing document. So the client can always see like the funding institutions that I'm applying for, like the name of the grant, the funding institution, the date it closes, the date I applied, and information like that. So we also have an Excel spreadsheet for like the sponsorships that we're reaching out to, or the communities that we're connecting with, or the funders that we're facilitating conversations with. So I think it's the same kind of process. You still have to be prepared. You still have to make sure your documents are in order. You still have to make sure that you're showing up in spaces that you want to impact.
So what do you think about organizations focusing also on just general grant fundraising? Because, grants come in seasons, and then on top of that, sometimes environments change as far as like beliefs and causes and what people are willing to put money towards, as far as whether it be sponsorships or just grants in general.
Mhm. Yeah, so I would just say like research. Like there's like for instance, there's this other organization that we're working with right now, and I have subscribed to all of the donors or funding institutions that they want to receive funding from. And so we sign up for their newsletters. We attend their events virtually if they're not in like the same city as us, or if they are in the same city, like we attend them in person. So we can keep that relationship. And so it's just all about staying abreast to the knowledge and the information that the organization is putting out. And that way you can stay up to date on like their impact report. You can stay up to date on if their causes change, if the leadership changes and you need to make a new connection, if you need to reach out to the executive director and like welcome them because they just came on board, or if they need volunteers and you want to, show up and show them that you're there for them as well. So it just really depends.
So I've seen a lot of people, want to find grant writers and those who, know how to do their jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be like three main things that a person looking for or a company looking for a grant writer would need to look for?
Definitely testimonials. You would want to find testimonials. You also want to put your eyes on the person. If you're only communicating through email, probably not a good
Mm-hmm.
thing. You want to be able to like put your eyes on them, even if it's like a Zoom call. and ask them questions. You want to look into their company, see how long they've been established. You want to look at their social media and see how long their accounts have been created. You want to be able to find the person that's writing for you on like social media platforms as well, like LinkedIn. You want to see if they have a Google business page. You want to ask them.
Excuse me.
You.
Thank you.
You want to ask them about their educational backing, if they have any certifications, if they went to school for this. So there's a lot of things that you can look for.
What are typical fees or percentage? 'Cause, like I've had people reach out to me about different grant writers and stuff like that, and I tell them that I've seen it where some grant writers charge fees up front, they do the work, they hand it over to the particular client, and it's like a map, strategy map for them to go and pursue themselves.
Yeah.
There are others who actually get like, 10% of what it's awarded. What has been, because you do this day to day, what's like an industry standard?
For me specifically, we charge per hour. But also if we're written into the grant, so we don't do, okay, if you win, we get this percent. That's not how it works at all. We charge up front. However, we can also be written into the grant for like the back end management
Mm-hmm.
as the PI. So let's say that there's a $100,000 grant, and in order to manage it, we request 5%. Like we write that into the grant for the institution to know that like we're going to be the ones who.
What's some of the typical institutions or businesses, organizations that you work with? Do you normally work with just the like nonprofits, or is it more in like an education sector? So those are,
Lately, like small to mid-sized businesses. But we have worked with like, of course, like nonprofits in the past. And we have a couple that we're working with now. But for the most part, it's like right now, our main clientele base are like small to mid-sized businesses.
So what are some of the industry pain points that you're experiencing on your end is, running your business and getting to the goals that you want to get to?
I think right now it's finding a good assistant that's willing to grow with the company. I think that with the kind of time we're in, I guess for lack of better words, people just like want to come in and like keep straight to the top. And I'm just like, no, that's not how it works. We got to come in. You have to learn. Like, yes, you have like experience in like other fields, but people rarely have experience in like strategic growth.
Mm-hmm.
So they usually have like experience in like business development or marketing or funding, but it's not like a mixture of all of the institutes that we handle. And so I think that's one pain point. Another pain point is just like getting people to believe in the company sometimes, because there are a lot of like, we're in like the season of coaches. Like everybody's a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's a mentor, but they haven't even like been in the game like 15. So I'm just like, okay. So I think that in like the creative industry, a lot of things are getting like watered down because like so many people are claiming that they do certain things and they just don't. And so I think that's another challenge. But we're showing up very strong, and we have a plan that we're going to start executing in like quarter 4. So we're really excited about that. And I think another challenge that we're facing is I think like breaking into like different communities in Georgia.
How has AI affected y'all's industry, if anything at all?
uh, Someone literally told me like a couple weeks ago. They had a consultation with me, and they were just like, "Whatever, I'll just get AI to do it." And I was like, "Okay." Like, there's like nothing I can really say to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that AI
AI can't build the relationships.
Yeah, it can't build the relationships. And as great as like AI is in some capacities and like in some forms, it's lacking like human characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, it can talk to you. Yes, it can tell you good morning, but like it's not a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't have like human touch. And I think that some people kind of like fall out of like the scope of reality with that. And so when people tell me that, I just say, okay, like I'm not in the era of arguing. I'm not in the era of proving anyone, wrong in that capacity. And so I just say, okay, and if you would like to work together in the future, we're here for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think AI is great when it comes to like research. I think it's great when it comes to seeing what others are doing, when it comes to, broadening like your knowledge. Like if you want to say, hey, what are the top 5 creators on the web right now for grant writing? I think it's good like that kind of thing. But for like the practical application, it's like just missing so many components.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I told people in the past, one, yeah, AI is a great tool, and that's what it should be just utilized as a tool only. Because at the end of the day, people do business with who they like.
Yeah.
You can have all the best bells and whistles in a document, piece of paper, and it could be the best thing on paper, but it doesn't mean that you're still going to get awarded. And I'm like, I've actually written this conversation to several people and told them that, like, first of all, you're looking, from my experience and what I've seen others be awarded with funding grants and programs like that, it's proof of concept. And they want to see that, like you said earlier, the work has been out there. And I've seen it directly and indirectly as well, where, you start off small and you keep working your way up. Because you've proven that you can handle like $1,000. Now you get like 5,000, $10, 10,000, 20,000, whatever the case may be. And it's a stepping stone, and you're building, like you said, credibility in the community. And the community recognizes what you're doing. They believe in the mission, so therefore they participate as well. I've also seen it where people have gotten first try $20,000 award funding, but then they're not to be heard of 2 years later. They're nowhere to be around. I've seen some with even more, in the hundreds of thousands, nowhere to be found anymore. And those services are not being done or provided for the community. What do you see this industry growing or gearing towards in the next, 3 to 5 years?
Oh, I think that there's going to be like a steady pace in a sense. Um, like you said, how people, win like $20,000, $30,000 and then they're like gone. I think that a lot of the surface level people will like phase out, and then the people who are like really doing the work, really getting the results, really making an impact, and not just like kind of money grab, but like are genuine to like their craft. I think we'll still be there.
Do you ever have a consensus where you like, what, everyone doesn't need to do this regardless of where their heart may be because they don't necessarily have the skill set or the strategy or mission to be able to execute, and that someone else would probably be able to, serve the community better?
I think that people should follow their heart, but I also think that people should be practical in their application. And so I will never tell someone to not do something that they want to do, but I think that people should do like a self assessment. Um, yeah, I think people should definitely do a self assessment and see like what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And if it's something that they really, really want to do, I think that they should focus on their strengths and then outsource for their weaknesses so that they can build a better product.
Do you see this as your career?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I say that because I'm always growing. I'm always expanding. I'm about to graduate, and then I'm applying for a PhD program. One day, I want to be a professor at an higher education institution. And so I think that I'll always have a heart for grant writing, and I may just like join a board of directors in the future and be their grant writer. But like for right now, this is like what I want to do.
Are there better cities than others that have resources to where people can apply for grants? So let's say, is Atlanta a more giving type of community than like a Memphis or a Nashville or a Miami?
I think it depends on the type of business. And so there's this organization in Atlanta. It's blue. It's blue. Sorry, I think in brand colors. I can't think of the name of it, but I can email it over or text it to you afterwards. But they send out like RFPs all the time. They focus on creative organizations and community development, and so it just depends on like what the focus of that city is. And so, for instance, like LA would be probably more inclined to creative than Minnesota, or Miami would be probably more inclined to like the health industry than like mom and pop soul food restaurants. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Um, and so New York would probably be more inclined to creative as well, rather than somewhere like Montgomery, Alabama, or something like that. And so I think it just depends on like that particular economic development in that city. And so a few things that people can do is they can look at their chamber of commerce, they can look at their economic development um, organization with the city. They can look at the state office, like of the mayor, and see like if they have any initiatives coming out. Like I know Baltimore, their office of the mayor has a lot of like opportunities for like housing developments there. That's where one of our clients are. And so it just depends on like the mission of that particular area.
What's the most creative thing you've seen funded?
Most creative?
Mm-hmm.
Mm, I don't know if it's like the most creative, but something that does get funding is the Savannah Black Heritage Festival. Um, my professor, when I took my very first writing class, like my very first grant writing class, like that was our like institute that we wrote for. And so I think they have a really great mission. They do a lot of really wonderful work. The committee is wonderful. And I think that they do amazing. I may be a little biased because I went to Savannah State University, but I think it's a really great organization.
So I work with a lot of different artists, independent artists, and people who are great. How often do you see them applying for grants for their artistic, creative endeavors? And what's the probability of those type of people being funded?
I actually don't see a lot of creatives applying for funding. I don't think that they know that that there is funding out there. But there are a couple of organizations that I follow on my business account on Instagram that literally is like dedicated to showing artists like funding opportunities for them. And so I can also send those over to you as well in a
Okay.
follow email if you like. And then maybe you can send them out to your community so they can follow them. Because there are a lot of opportunities, but it's not very well advertised.
Mhm.
Um, and also, people probably just don't know, so it's not in their algorithm.
I've been saying this for like 2 decades plus.
Hmm.
For me, having a business background with a concentration in marketing, I don't ever see, and I'm always looking for stuff, right? I'm more, I guess, in tune than just the average person because I'm always researching, looking. But I don't ever see where just funding opportunities in general are marketed the way that I think we should be marketed. They do the regular traditional things of maybe they'll have the program created,
Mhm.
and of course it'll be housed somewhere. But the way that they get the message out to the community to let people know that they can actually apply is always through more of a traditional means, more of a grassroots type situation. I don't think they take advantage of social media like they should, or create creative campaigns dedicated just to getting the word out. To me, is no different than what like the Department of Health does when they want to get information out. It's always through what they thought worked in the past, and they get like a very little people participating, knowing that those particular programs can actually benefit way more people if they apply different marketing techniques. What's been your experience of like how you've been seeing just grant opportunities being pushed into the community from a marketing perspective?
That's a really good perspective. A lot of people, or I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know the exact number, but in my experience, have come across people who are reluctant to like change sometimes, but they just don't know, or it's like the same people from like 50 years ago are still sitting in the same seat, so they're doing things that worked 50 years ago, but not in 2026. And so with me just like looking at my like there's just so many things that I follow on here. And so even for someone who wants to find grant opportunities, like on Instagram, you just literally type in grants and like on your like where the magnifying glass is, and like so many grants will just like pop up. But I've researched it so much to where I don't even have to type in grants. They're just like here on the screen when I go to my like explore page or like my explore tab. And so I think that reaching out to the organizations, expressing your thoughts is like really beneficial. And sometimes people are really receptive to it. They're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Or I didn't even think to show up in the space in that nature. But also when you tell them like your thoughts and ideas, like help them, you'll also like forge that relationship with them.
Well, I definitely get that. But actually, anybody out there who wants to get in contact with you, wants to check out social media, learn more about grant funding opportunities, where do they need to go?
They can but I also have a website. The Opia Designs Company is LLC.com. But also I'm on Instagram at Ashleigh Pandora Era or Building with AP Steele. Um, yeah, I can send over all of my contact information. My email is really long. And so, yeah, I can send over all of that and you can put it in the show notes if you like. No pressure. Um,
No, you
yeah.
can send it over. I put pretty much a lot of stuff in show notes. That's actually one of my marketing tools that I tell people when you do podcasting. Most people think, oh, I can do a podcast interview and just leave it at that. And I'm like, no, you actually get indexed by Google because it's words, and that's what helps it climb the charts. And I've shown people where the name is typed in, their location is typed in, they're the second thing to pop up, and it's an interview with me. And I was like, that's due to the fact you have your own page. It's indexed with all the keywords and stuff. So when people are searching that, you start to show up. And then the more you show up and the more you're out there, the more people are going to see you. I'm like, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. So is there anything that we left out that you'd like the people to know?
Don't give up. No matter what, don't give up. keep pressing. It doesn't matter if you have that professor that doesn't believe in you, or it's just like you're trying to prove yourself like wrong, that you can actually do anything that you set your mind to. Surround yourself with the information that you wish to attain, and stick to a schedule, and you'll succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you for your time. Thank you for your story, the jewels that you dropped. Y'all can go and check out the website. It'll be displayed. As always, you can keep following Bankedoutt Radio Show across social media. And if you like to subscribe, you can do the exclusive that we have on Apple subscriptions as well under Music and Business Talk. I'm your host, Andres, and we have given you another episode.